In the South Seas, where the water meets the sky, torrential rains are lost in the vastness of the ocean. A legend says that a drop of fresh water fell into this excess and was collected by a shell. With time, the mollusk turned it into a fascinating gem of a sweet purity. Perfectly round, it had a sheen and exceptional color. Thus, the first black pearl of Tahiti was created. Since the beginning of time, the pearl has excited the curiosity of man while igniting his admiration. A rare gem that does not require the work of an artisan to reveal its beauty. The greats of this world have never failed to wear the most beautiful among them. Their beauty and rarity made those who wore them exceptional beings. A woman, Gabrielle Chanel, transformed the fashion of her era. For her, pearls enhance the beauty of women, enhancing their complexion and the brightness of their eyes, or punctuating the strict silhouette of a little black dress. In discussing the association of these two colors, she said, "The black has it all, the white as well. They are of an absolute beauty. It is the perfect match." Her fondness for pearls never faded. She once said, "I will not go down to the workshops without having them around my neck. I want to honor my workers." Paris in 1925 was a continual party. Pierre Gallant, a close friend of Mademoiselle Chanel, says, "I remember an evening in the home of Princess Eugénie Murat. That evening, Chanel wore a necklace of pearls at least 2 meters long. Everyone was very, very gay. Chanel suddenly began to dance the Charleston at a frenetic pace, and suddenly, crack. Coco Chanel was the living symbol of all the luxury and all the follies of that period. Following her great spirit of freedom and creativity, Mademoiselle put pearls into fashion. Always very popular with women, some of the finest pearls today come from a South Pacific archipelago. The main island, Tahiti, is the largest of the 118 that make up French Polynesia, with its capital, Papeete. Discovered in the 16th century, it was not until the 18th century that Europeans marveled at these islands through the stories of Louis-Antoine de Bougainville. Then, the English explorer James Cook reinforced the myth of paradise, describing the dances of the Vaïne, their beauty, the climate of great sweetness, and the exuberant nature. The French state provides financial assistance to Polynesia in key areas of the economy, such as education, research, transport, agriculture, and tourism, which is the primary source of local revenues. The fishing industry, highly underutilized, is changing. But the true wealth of this paradise is undoubtedly the pearl, a booming sector that constitutes a majority of exports. Inter-island transport is made by air. Small pearl farms isolated in the middle of the lagoons are accessible by boat. It was long believed in ancient times that the pearl was born from a mixture of heavenly dew and the glare of the sun and the moon and the stars. The Chinese believed that storms fertilized shells to give birth to this gem. In the Orient, pearls were considered to be the tears of angels and mermaids. The pearls are the result of a natural phenomenon. A grain of sand or other parasitic element accidentally enters the flesh of the oyster. In passing, it is responsible for the epithelial cells which develop to form a pearl sac. It secretes the pearlescent material around the grain of sand. The pearls formed are the result of an accident of nature and are therefore of a great rarity.
Là, c'est du 3-4, hein?
Over 100 years ago, 3 Japanese men, Tokichi Nishikawa, Tatsushei Mise, and Kokichi Mikimoto, had the same idea at almost the same time, without knowing each other, to help nature produce these round pearls. Only the first 2 were regarded as the true inventors of this technique. It was the birth of the modern pearl. The man causes a natural phenomenon by introducing a nucleus into the gonad of the oyster. The kernel is the support. The graft is the secretory pearl material, which forms the pearl sac. This will produce a cultured pearl. In Polynesia, the first attempts at pearl culture began in the 1960s. The idea was launched, and within a few years, farms were located throughout the atolls. Creating pearls requires persistence and patience. Indeed, the young oysters are suspended in a submarine station until they attain the size to be transplanted. The pearl oyster in French Polynesia is the Pinctada margaritifera. It is known around the world for the quality of the nacre secretion. This pearl changes sex during its life. She lays all year round, and especially during seasonal changes. It takes 2 or 3 years for it to happen again. When young, the shell is the target of many predators, feared by pearl farmers. Fragile, this oyster requires constant care. The oysters are brought back to the farm to be cleaned and grafted. Pending these operations, they are immediately placed in water so that they do not suffer shocks that could lead to abnormal mortality. The cleaning operation is important. It is practiced several times a year to eliminate parasites clinging to the shells. These parasites disrupt the normal development of the pearl oyster and therefore contribute to the production of pearls of poor quality. After cleaning, the oysters are detached from the rope. The dead oysters are discarded. For their survival, between each step, the oysters are placed in water. Then finally comes the transplantation stage. One must open the shell without causing harm, but enough for the transplant to work. A large number of oysters are prepared and remain open thanks to a plastic wedge placed between the two valves of the shell. My name is Mona Constant, and my profession is pearl farmer.
Ma profession, c'est perliculteur.
Initially, there is what is called harvesting. It is the operation in which we collect the spats of pearl. Then there is the breeding to make them grow. And once they have reached a sufficient size, that is to say, 6 to 8 centimeters in diameter, we can start the transplanting. It takes about 18 months for the pearl to form. There are 2 steps, in fact, in the graft. First, the selection and preparation of the graft, then the incision itself. To choose the graft, we open a few oysters slightly, and a small mirror is placed inside. You try to see the color of the walls of the shell. If the walls have beautiful colors, then you will sacrifice that oyster to take a sample of the coat to make a graft. One can find shells with yellow highlights, shells with green reflections. It's in relation to this that we choose the colors.
C'est par rapport à ça qu'on choisit les couleurs. Donc la préparation du griffon, ça consiste à...
The preparation of the graft consists in choosing a pearl from which we will take a piece of the coat. And this coat will be prepared in a particular way. And this is the piece of tissue where we'll cut a small piece of flesh to become the graft. In fact, it is this graft that will give the layer of the pearl. Graft preparation is performed like a surgical operation. The instruments are disinfected at each stage so as not to contaminate the oysters. An individual can infect an entire colony, which would be a disaster for the pearl farmer. Then there's the incision. The incision is made in the gonad of the pearl. Once the incision is made, a nucleus is placed, and on the nucleus, a small graft.
Et sur ce nucléus, on met aussi un petit greffon.
The cells of the graft will develop to form the pearl sac, which secretes a material constituted of pearl aragonite. The nucleus will be the basis of the pearl. It will give a round shape to the pearl. The graft will grow slowly around and form what is called the pearl sac. And it is this pearl sac that gives the layer of pearl, and it will form around the nucleus. The nucleus is of natural origin. In fact, it came from a mollusk shell. The shell was originally from Mississippi. I think there are also other sources. So it's a freshwater mussel, and its shell is used to carve out the nucleus. 18 months later, we harvest raw pearls. And if the pearls are beautiful, you can then perform a regraft. A regraft means that we'll use a nucleus the size of the pearl which was extracted. Then we'll put it back in the gonad, in the pearl sac, and the oyster can be reused to give another pearl after a year or 18 months as well.
Et on peut réutiliser la nacre qui va redonner une autre perle au bout d'un an à 18 mois aussi.
Once the graft is completed, the oysters are placed in baskets to protect them and put back into the water. In fact, we began when it started to get difficult. We never knew the good old days of pearl farming. Apparently, there were too many pearls on the market. Buyers would even turn pearls down. We graft about 60,000 pearls a year. Big farms can do millions a year. So we're a small farm. If there's an epidemic or a cyclone, we can lose our entire production. It would be a catastrophe because we'd be left with absolutely nothing.
S'il y a un cyclone, on peut aussi perdre toutes nos installations. Tout dépend de la force du cyclone. Et perdre toutes les nains. C'est une catastrophe parce que du jour au lendemain, j'ai plus rien.
This lure is made with polished mother-of-pearl inside. Some exist with pearls that replace the eyes in the head.
Certains leurres existent avec des perles qui remplacent les yeux dans la tête.
A shark ate a piece of this sashimi. When we fish near the reefs, there are quite a few sharks, and often they'll eat our fish. My great-grandfather was captain of a schooner. He went through the islands and picked up pearls, pearl shells. At the time, he could pick about 15 or 20,000 oysters, and out of all of them find one single little fine gem. There must be a foreign body, a grain of sand or something like that got into the pearl. It's a defensive reaction, in fact. It covers the foreign body and makes it into a pearl. It's like what we do with the graft. We would swim both in the early morning and late at night. It happened that sharks would come and rip away our flippers. We did have a few scares, and we had to protect ourselves with strings of oysters to keep them away. Sharks in the lagoons are not man-eaters, but it leaves you with particular memories after all these years. This adventure of the pearl started in the late 70s, and it started simply, I think, because at the time the pearl had a future. Pearl farming was in its infancy when we started, and we were the 5th pearl farm in all of Polynesia. I told myself, this is a small product that has a good value, and it'll bring happiness to all women who love jewelry around the world. And also, it's a product that could easily be exported on account of its small size, because we're far from all major markets worldwide. It's more out of a sense of challenge and out of a will to do something in this country that did not exist before that I threw myself into this adventure of the pearl. And that's gone well, since the company still exists, and my sister took over a few years ago. My name is Dora Foucard, and I own a pearl farm on the island of Aratika, in the Tuamotu archipelago, in French Polynesia. In the entire industry, from the time we introduce a nucleus into an oyster and the time when we harvest the pearl, we've lost more than half of the oysters. Of all the pearls we harvest, 10% go in the trash. They're called rejects, and are pearls that really do not deserve to be called by that name.
On les appelle des rebus, et ce sont des perles qui vraiment ne méritent pas le nom de perles.
Then, only 10% can be used in fine jewelry.
10% peuvent être véritablement utilisés en haute joaillerie, et le reste est facilement utilisable.
And the rest is readily usable for all kinds of slightly cheaper jewelry. Tahitian pearls come in all colors. They start with white, but white is rare in Tahiti. When you see a white pearl in a lot of pearls, it reflects, it stands out. So it goes from white, and it goes to dark gray, almost black. And in fact, when we talk about a black pearl, it's not really black. And then between the white and dark gray, which is still the basic color that we find here, there are all different colors. It goes from pink to green to blue to yellow to caramel, all sorts of colors. To go to Eradicate, it's still far, as it's more than 400 kilometers from Tahiti. We often take a boat, which takes a good full day, and often we take a plane. Yes, it can be a bit dangerous here. There are several people I know personally who are no longer here today because the distances are so huge and the islands are so small. Just a small pilot error or mechanical accident, and then it's over. We have a small private strip next to the farm that's about 750 meters. Every week or so we go to get pearls. Every week during the right season.
Nous allons chercher les perles, oui, toutes les semaines pendant la saison de production. Ça va? Ça va bien?
Oui, ça va pour le moment, quoi. Hein?
Ok, ben, on va aller voir les, installations,
griffeurs,
ouais.
Ouais.
Les griffeurs.
Les griffeurs sont là, quoi.
There are grafters that come from Japan, others from China, some from Australia, and of course we have native Tahitian grafters that are taking over more and more. I think all the grafters we use here at Pacific Pearl are good professionals, and we evaluate their performance according to several criteria. First, the retention rate. That's to say, the number of nuclei that are released within 2 or 3 months after the transplant. The less nucleus are rejected, the better the transplant. But then it also happens at harvest. We know exactly who did what, and we want to get statistics for each grafter so that they can try to improve their performance. A good grafter is one with a retention rate of 80% or more.
Et à la récolte, nous tenons des statistiques pour chaque griffeur pour qu'ils puissent essayer d'améliorer leur performance. Un bon griffeur a un taux de rétention de au moins 80%, sinon plus.
In the lagoons, pearl farms place collectors in the water, on which the young oysters affix themselves. That is to say, the small oysters cling to them and continue to grow. Once they reach 1 to 3 centimeters, they are removed and placed in nets, where they are maintained into adulthood. To get to this size, it takes 2+ years. They cling on thanks to the current. They cling on, they fluck smiles on us.
À la dérive, si la chance nous sourit. Ces filets,
Lagoons are saltwater lakes, shallow and located between the land and a coral reef. The tide penetrates through the gaps in the reef. These natural aquariums, the refuge of a multicolored aquatic wildlife, are favorite places for pearl farming because the waters are calm and the temperatures are conducive.
C'est la production de combien de temps, ça?
This is the production of how much time? This is the production for the week. Twenna just packed them, and now they need to be taken back to the office and sorted, because we have all different shapes and all different qualities. Everything is mixed together. It's a rough harvest. Every week there's a plane. Every week there's a plane that picks up the pearls. Okay, here we go.
Allez, on y va.
This is an auction, which is intended only for professionals. We sell 98,604 pearls that we will auction. It's a secret sale that goes on for 4 days. Buyers come into this room and see the pearls that we're putting up for sale. Buyers control the quality of the pearls of various lots of interest to determine the maximum price they will offer at auction.
Allô? Ouais. Oui, dame. Un petit peu, dame. Tu pourrais te rappeler un peu plus tard? Il y a différents critères qui nous permettent d'évaluer.
There are different criteria that allow us to assess the value of pearls. There's the quality of the pearl itself. That's to say the picks, the little dots on the top of. Then there's the size, the color, and the shape. I'm a jeweler by trade, and the purpose here is to find the rarest pearl. That's the real gem, a perfect pair out of 86,000 pieces. It has brightness, color, the shape is perfect. In fact, it's priceless. Lot number 2 is priced at 3,800,000 francs.
Le lot numéro 1 est attribué pour 1 888 000 francs à la compagnie Sebido Pearl. Bravo, merci.
Lot number 1 goes to Sebido Pearl Company for 1,888,000 Pacific francs.
I am Martin Carroll, CEO of GIE Perle de Tahiti. It's an economic interest group that brings together the pearl farmers of French Polynesia and also the government of French Polynesia. So we're specifically responsible for promoting the pearls of Tahiti around the world. International sales are held here in Papati 3 times a year. There are also sales in Japan and Hong Kong. There are also 3 other sales, so there are about 6 international sales of Tahitian pearls in the world.
Donc à peu près il y a 6 ventes internationales de récolte de perles de Tahiti.
Pearl production started in the earliest experiments in the 1960s. It's starting in the 80s and 90s that the growth has been phenomenal. There's been a real boom in the pearl industry, a rush for pearls coming from the Tuamotu Islands. And it's from the 90s until today that the market is stabilized in terms of production.
90 jusqu'à nos jours, le marché s'est stabilisé en termes de production.
But due to an unfavorable economic climate in the past 2 years, the territory of French Polynesia and the pearl farmers have organized themselves and have structured this sector, and especially they've established quality standards that are much higher than they were before.
Et surtout ont instauré des standards de qualité beaucoup plus élevés qu'auparavant.
To facilitate exports to foreign buyers, the customs service is now present at the time of the sale. Unlike in many countries, the insecurity and stress associated with people working in the world of gems are not present here.
Je m'appelle Loïc Vian, donc je suis.
My name is Loïc Vian, and I'm a black pearl merchant. I created my company 3 years ago. My job is largely to collect pearls. I have many associations and contracts with producers from who I buy all the harvests. Be they good or bad, it can be harvests of 200 pearls or 20 to 30,000 pearls. We also have another way of buying pearls, which is at auctions. So once you've bought these pearls for sale or at auction directly from the producer, our first job in the office here is to thoroughly check the quantities. So we count these pearls and sort them.
Notre premier travail au bureau est de bien vérifier les quantités. Donc on compte ces perles et on les trie. Pour le comptage en général.
To count and sort, we use different counters. Some are 100, 500. This is usually a large platter with 500 holes that we fill up until there are no more holes available. After it's emptied, we know that there are 500 pearls in the counter. There's something else that's also very specific to the pearl, and that is screening. The screening consists of calibrating all the pearls. We screen with different grids. The pearls are passed repeatedly through the sieve with different grids. This way we can define the size of the beads, whether they're 8 millimeters, 9 millimeters, 10 millimeters, or up to the very, very exceptional and rare 20 millimeter pearl. That is still very rare.
Mais ça reste très très rare.
Some of these stones are intended for resale and wholesale, and another portion of these pearls are treated here, which is to say that they're prepared and placed in clamps, and are in fact semi-finished products. The semi-finished products are generally necklaces, so that they all match. We have a few necklaces here. They're done either in solid colors or multicolored. Here we have 3 necklaces, a round necklace, that one, and a necklace of cercle bouton. We have multicolored necklaces and single-color necklaces. Once we've sorted all our pearls, we group all of our lots, and when everything is ready, we present this to our customers. So our customers move in large part, and they come from Hong Kong and Japan. So they come to Tahiti 1 week, they're presented with the pearls, and we negotiate based on the quality and different criteria.
We bought about 2 tons of pearls last year.
We purchased about 2 tons of pearls last year. I was probably among the biggest buyers. In Tahiti, they deal with the production. Our work is to make necklaces and market them and find as many markets as possible.
Try to market it in as many markets as possible.
When the sale is made, we still have one last step, which is also very important. Before exporting, the pearls have to go through an agency, which is the Tahitian Service of the Cultured Pearl. This service verifies that all the classifications are in accordance with the laws in force in Polynesia. And they also check the layers of the pearl. That is to say that a pearl must have a minimum of 1.8 millimeters of nacre layers. Below this thickness, it cannot be exported and is confiscated. My name is Mina Telfer, and I am head of the Pearl Department, and we're in the Agriculture Department. Our function is essentially to ensure strict compliance of pearl regulation, including quality control and regulating the occupation of public maritime domain. Quality control of cultured pearls from Tahiti is mainly to verify that they meet the criteria for classification enacted by the territory. So there are several qualities: A, B, C, and D. The pearl farmers wishing to export his pearls has to go through the service of the pearl industry. The quality control department, where the beads are first counted, then weighed, and checked visually. We check to see if the surface has no serious flaws, such as deep pits or important stains. Then they are placed in a tray that will allow them to go through an X-ray machine.
Elles sont ensuite mises sur un plateau qui...
At this time, we'll check to see if they have nacre layers of 0.8 millimeters around the nucleus.
0,8 mm de couche nacrière autour du nucléus.
Then they are recounted and reweighed and sealed for export.
Repesées et scellées.
We check up to 70,000 to 8,000 pearls per day.
10 000, 80 000 perles par jour. Toutes les perles de culture.
All cultured pearls from Tahiti are controlled by the Pearl Service before export.
Avant leur exportation.
An exceptional pearl is unique above all in its brilliance, what's called the orient. This is an exceptional gem. It's a shape, and also the fact that there's only a single one amongst a considerable amount. The pearl is exceptional And that's it. It's the fact that it's rare, that it's difficult to find, and that there are so few. In Polynesia, there are few of us that do this kind of jewelry. There are 2 or 3 craftsmen who know their profession and who work at a very good level. And the market is not so much centered on this type of jewelry. But outside of Polynesia, yes. On the international market, there are great jewelers who make outstanding pieces with Tahitian pearls. I think there's a real sensuality in Tahitian pearls, much more than with other stones. I think there's something very feminine, there's something very sensual. In the pearl in general, and particularly in the black pearl, and with all the colors that it offers, and the shapes that we offer, I think it's a very feminine piece of jewelry. When one has worked with pearls, it's very difficult to go back to something else. Pearls are almost alive. They have a roundness that... It's something that I touch that's like... A stone is cold. Except for the diamond. The diamond's perfect anyway.
Hormis le diamant qui, lui, de toute façon, est la perfection.
I like to combine this sensuality, this femininity, to the perfection of the diamond. It's like when you meet someone with whom it goes extremely well, or unable to explain it. It's the same way for me. The pearl is female, but I could not say how the relationship was created. Oddly enough, what interests me the most is primarily to make a balanced work, to create something of beauty above all.
En premier chef, au premier lieu, c'est surtout de faire un ouvrage équilibré et de créer quelque chose d'esthétique, avant tout. Je peux penser à des personnes...
I can think of personalities when I'm creating a jewel. Maybe it's pretentious or ambitious, but I often think of well-known personalities when I imagine a jewel. I think of the woman who will wear the jewelry when I create something. It's always initially a pearl that I will dress up. We will highlight it. It's the starting point. When I draw, the base of the drawing is first and foremost the pearl, which is the trigger of what will happen next. There's a rule of proportions that I've not overused in fashioning this gem. I wanted to do that, and then while fashioning it, I realized that it would weigh a certain weight, particularly on the ear. I asked myself whether it was going to be wearable.
Donc jusqu'au bout, je me suis dit, est-ce que ça va être portable?
And then we did a photo shoot with a model, and I left her there for the pose. And I left for about 45 minutes to an hour with the earrings. And at the end, when I wanted to come back to take my jewel, she didn't want to give them back. So I was really reassured that it was not too heavy.
Donc j'ai été vraiment rassuré sur le fait qu'elle soit lourde ou pas lourde.
From the ends of the earth, these pearls arrive in the workshops of the greatest jewelers. Around these favorite themes, Mademoiselle Chanel Joaillerie imagines and realizes all of these creations. The pearls, selected among the finest and rarest, are strung one after the other, giving rise to the sphere necklace. Eternally, like a subtle perfume, the spirit of Mademoiselle Chanel lives on in the Place Vendôme. The elders surely had a reason to believe that pearls make one immortal.